everyone needs. Galaxy equalizer ready.
Welcome, brothers. Welcome, sisters. We're back again with the second part of our program on Studio Galaxy 473 in Confer. And you are with the Galaxy Equalizers. And this time the topic is what is next for CARICOM leaders? It's a very important thing for us to keep abreast, to find out what is going on with our leaders. Sometimes our leaders lead us astray and we do as if we're shocked. But the writing was on the wall. We buried our head in the sand. The world is too dangerous now. The world is on edge. It seems almost all the nations in the world want to fight. And no one really wants peace. We are playing with nuclear weapons. And the Caribbean do not have nuclear weapons. Africa do not have nuclear weapons. Latin America do not have nuclear weapons. So we can beat nobody. So we ought to be the peacemakers in the world. Instead of that, it seems our leaders in the CARICOM pick up the sword and they join in the fight. The Dalai Lama, the great Tibetan teacher, he advised if you cannot beat your enemies, when you go into your enemy, tie both hands behind your back. So your enemy knows that you come to talk and you don't come to fight. Sometimes you see dogs are attacked by other dogs and they lie down on the ground and they show submission and they live to survive. Brothers and sisters, the number to call is 536-2558. You can participate in the program. CARICOM, the government for member states of Caribbean community. CARICOM is an organization that promotes economic integration and cooperation. One market and economy. That is what we promote. Within CARICOM, we have the LDCs and the MDCs. The more developed country and the less developed country. I don't know why they felt it necessary to spell out that. It's like saying, among the poor people, you are the poorer of the poor. So Barbados, Jamaica, Belize, and Bahamas, and Trinidad is considered as the more developed. And then the smaller islands like Grenada, St. Vincent, Dominica, Antigua, and the others, the less developed. I've always felt that CARICOM should be one of the biggest peacemakers in the world. You don't have numbers. You don't have nuclear weapons. You don't have army. You want to survive between the imperial powers. You should be able to demolate without angering any particular imperial power. United States of America have relationship with Russia and India and China. So you in the Caribbean could function effectively among the imperial powers and keep your backside quiet. And don't necessarily anger any one of them. Particularly the imperial power that could affect you most economically. Based upon the economic realities of CARICOM and most of the other Caribbean countries, the United States and Europe is of paramount importance. Where Grenada is concerned, we must never forget that St. George's University contributes more than 20% of the GDP. We depend on tourism, and we like American tourists. They are the most arrogant. They give the most trouble, but they spend the most money, and they give the biggest tip. American tourists. We sell passport on the international market. Gratis, the United States of America. And Grenada collected over $1 billion in the sale of passport based upon the utterances and expression of the National Democratic Congress. Them that say that, in other words. In addition to that, Grenada has perhaps the greatest diversity in agriculture in the smaller islands. We export cocoa, nutmeg, fish, and sauce. We have the ability, but we don't have the capacity to export about 20 other agricultural products to the United States of America. Farmers are making a handsome little amount of money. Yeah? Handsome little amount. Contradictory. From soursop. They don't even have to harvest it. They get about $3 or $4 a pound for it. All they have to do is to plant it. Most of the small animals, ruminants, don't eat soursop. So once they survive, you're good. You could graze your sheep and your goat and your cow in it. And the traders go to your land, pick your soursop, tell you how much they pick, and pay for you and pay for the soursop on the spot. And you get $2 or $3, $3 or $4 a pound. That goes to the United States market. Grenada is the only country in the region that can sell fresh soursop to the U.S. market. Fish. We have the ability to sell fish to the U.S. market too. I don't know after January what will happen, but I'm a positive man. So I believe the government said they're going to negotiate with the Americans and everything will be all right. So I'm taking what the government say, lob, stock, and barrel, that everything will be all right. We are now producing sea moss, and we can export sea moss to the U.S. market. We're sending some in small quantities already. So our economy, not tied, but is quite interrelated and directly dependent on the U.S. market. Most of the other Caribbean countries have similar story. Barbados, big tourist entity, but they depend a lot on American tourists. In addition to that, the majority of our people is in the United States of America. Not in Russia, not in China, not in Cuba. The United States of America and Europe. Barbados was once called Little England. We don't have the diversity as some other countries. So when we're dealing with international politics and international relationship, we must be savvy. You don't have to call a spade if you're going to get yourself in trouble. Call it a trouble. Or say you don't know what it is. Our foreign affairs in the video is supposed to be more tactical, not confusion makers. and picking up their sword and joining battles. Guyana and Venezuela have a serious border problem for many years. Venezuela claiming 1/3 of Guyana, and Suriname be claiming 1/3. Well, they was there, and I remember in the days of Bonham, he said not a blade of grass. And Guyana have stayed, although Guyana venture into cooperative socialism. That is when there was communism. They used to call it cooperative socialism. Forbes Bonham used to chide or kick son Shady Jagan and say he can't change his shot if Russia ain't tell him to change it. So Forbes Bonham was telling you that Jagan more communist than him. All the stores in Guyana was nationalized. Guy Suko, Guy Sto, everything is Guy. At that time, Jamaica was practicing democratic socialism. I think the PNM under Manley. These countries venture into that and it failed. CARICOM leaders have to be more savvy and be more tactful and be more diplomatic and avoid picking up the sword and joining fights. We have a number of fights in the world today, 3 in particular. Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukraine is an independent sovereign country. I was disappointed that the majority of CARICOM countries seems to have thrown their weight behind Russia. They did not project themselves as peacemakers. While they didn't openly flaunt Russia, they did not support Ukraine. But Ukraine is an independent sovereign country. So how an imperial power could feel they have the legal and moral authority to dictate to Ukraine what organization they could join? For those of you who don't know the history, go back and read about the great famine under Joseph Stalin. A significant percentage of the population of Ukraine starved under the great famine. I think it was in 2005, can't remember, 19 something. Ukraine signed a peace treaty with Russia and America and gave back Russia all the nuclear weapon that was on Ukraine's soil. At that time, the superpowers, the imperial powers, was trying to avoid the proliferation of nuclear weapons. And they prefer Russia had this weapon than Ukraine. So they practically maul Ukraine to give back Russia the weapon. Britain and America have a moral responsibility to protect Russia, to protect Ukraine. In addition to that, Ukraine is an independent sovereign country. And all the countries in the Caribbean, Latin America, and Africa, voices is expected on the grounds of morality and legality to support Ukraine. You have another war in the Middle East. Hamas. The United Nations declared them as a terrorist group. But in October 7th, they went into Israel and committed some crimes. They killed people. They rape people. They chop up children. They burn bodies, and they go with even the dead. Most of the CARICOM countries was extremely silent. They did not openly condemn Hamas, but they condemned Israel when Israel retaliated. Remember, in 2005, Israel left the Gaza, I think they pulled 8,000 or 10,000 Israelis out of Gaza. They dig up their dead bodies and go with it. They arrested, they physically removed Israelis that didn't want to go, and they left Gaza. The flowers industry in that time was over $1 billion. Within 72 hours, a number of the structures that Israeli leave was on fire. And Hamas never stopped firing rockets at Israel. Did the Caribbean leaders condemn that? No. Did CARICOM take a position on that? I don't know. But they did not openly condemn it. Well, if you did not openly condemn it, and at the time you didn't interfere, how come you interfere now? I believe some of the leaders in the Caribbean hate the Jews and they want them dead. I believe some of the leaders in the Caribbean support Iran in the annihilation of the Jews. They want the Jews dead. They want the Jews in the bottom of the sea. Why did CARICOM leaders walk out in the United Nations when the president of Israel was giving his speech? Why did you walk out? You take your sword and you join a side. You condemn Israel, but you didn't condemn Hamas. Even today, Israel asking to return the Jews that you kidnapped. You're using as human shield. Some of them are dead, some alive. I have not heard no CARICOM leaders, including Mia Mockley in Barbados, condemn the action of Hamas and call for the return of the house. Based upon the information that seems not to be disputed now, because so much information coming out there, some of them is propaganda and lie. But there are some information that is not disputed. That Hamas has set up the firing power, the machine gun and the soldiers are operating in schools, in hospitals, and in residential areas. So to practicalize that, when they fire a missile and the missile comes from the hospital, Israel not supposed to fire back at them because it's a hospital. When they fire at Israel and the missile comes from a school, Israel not supposed to fire back because it's a school. When they fire missiles and rockets and it comes from a clinic, Israel not supposed to fire back. This is a clinic. Because if you fire back and you kill civilians, they call it genocide. That is the thinking of the Caribbean leaders. All the Arab nations, 50 Arab nations, and a number of people in the United Nations. I believe they want to kill the Jews. They want the Jews dead. They support Iran for the annihilation of the Jews, the total destruction of the Jews from the river to the sea. How CARICOM countries get involved in that? Why Caribbean leaders so biased and untactful? Why don't mind your business? Or why don't you appear as a peacemaker? You'd have more leverage. You'd appear more diplomatic. You'd have more sway in the world if you presented yourself as a peacemaker. You can't be jumping up and taking a side and offering yourself as a peacemaker. You have to be consistent. And that is why we ask, what next for CARICOM? The Prime Minister of Trinidad has said plain that if Venezuela attack Guyana, she's going to provide permission for the United States to use her territory. Because obviously, if Venezuela interfere with Guyana militarily, Britain and America is expected to intervene. And you could say for whatever reason, economic reason, geopolitical reason, everybody have a reason for getting involved in it. When volcano jumping up, no imperial power going on bomb volcano. They see no economic importance. But because of the geopolitical and economic importance, superior powers getting involved. Whether it's China in Taiwan or Russia in Belarus or Ukraine or India or Pakistan. That's it. What is the CARICOM leaders' take? CARICOM leaders is going against the people. Most of the people in the Caribbean are Christians. We have a lot of left-wing Christians. We are atheist Christians. Because Christians are not so militant, they seem to be pretty saltless Christians. The Bible calls them saltless. Lukewarm. They're not hot. You don't know where they stand. They believe in God today, they practicing Obiad in the evening time, and then they complimenting Hamas tomorrow. The Quran said, the Quran disallow peaceful agreement between Jews and Christians. Based upon the Quran, if you are converted from Islam, you should be stoned to death. You should be killed. So it's very difficult for the Muslims, or next to impossible, to make a deal with Israel, a peaceful deal with Israel, because they see Israel as an infidel, garbage. The Islam offer you 72 celestial virgin if you kill the infidels. Well, if they give you 72 celestial virgin, they must get a little generator. You have no question about that. You must get a little generator because a celestial virgin is practically an angel. And then you're going to have an erection that can go down. That is what the Quran. That is what the Quran.
A generator?
Well, you must have a generator. If you are 72 celestial virgin and you have an erection that can go down, you must have a generator. How CARICOM leaders come in that? Why they hate the Jews? Maybe we should teach our children about the Jews. Maybe we should take a page from the Jews. When Marcus Moriah Garvey started to talk about back to Africa, quick, the Jews supported. Not because they like Marcus Moriah Garvey, but they want to go back to Israel. So it was a good thing. They wanted Jews to come back to Israel because they didn't have the numbers. Israel is a small nation, about 25 people, about 25 million people. About 8 million in Israel, 7 million in the United States. And the rest is Jews all about the place. It's not a big nation. Israel is about 0.2% of the world population. But they win the Nobel Prize for Literature more than 50% of the time. Israel is about 2% of the population of the United States of America. But they're about 30% of the millionaires. We should take a page from the Israelis' book. Instead of only living in lamentation, every day jumping up about slavery and who doing us bad, and you have children not only blaming the past. Unproductive governments and children blaming the past. We should take a page from the book of the Jews. We should teach our people about the Jews. But CARICOM leaders are you misleading your constituents. While the majority of your constituents are Christians, you are giving support to a religion that said to kill you. Kill Christians, the worst and garbage. Why is it CARICOM leaders openly supporting to kill their own people? Because that is what you're doing. Because Islam, that is what is in the Quran. Why are you against the Jews? Why did you not consistent? You could be consistent. And I'm not denying the fact that the world may be right, that Israel is too excessive. So if they kill 10 Jews, you must kill 10 Palestine, not 79. That is what the argument seems to advance. Disproportionate reaction. So if they fire from a school and they're killing you people, you must not fire that because it's from a school. So they have right to go in the school. So Israel say bomb the school because they passed the underground network and operating inside the hospital. It's a good strategy for the Muslim because they need international sympathy and funding. So when their people die, they plaster it over the wall and say, you see, the Jews kill children. But they go in and fire from the hospital. It's like when 1983, when the prisoners went in the madhouse and fire gun, the United States bombed the madhouse. Bamsi Lele tell me he never see Bamso. He said, anybody I don't get better, they ain't getting better. Bamsi Lele was in the madhouse when the American fire a missile. I don't know if he come from the plane or from one of the boats in the sea, and they mash up the madhouse. Remember? They said they was firing from the madhouse. The American know the madhouse is. But they didn't bother. So why CARICOM leaders don't seek the interests of our people in CARICOM? And I ask, what next for CARICOM leaders? I noticed 3 or 4 countries, Barbados, St. Vincent, about 4 of them decide to have more freedom of movement. But what happened to the others? The rest of CARICOM islands and Trinidad seems to be different because these CARICOM countries supporting Venezuela. I saw the Prime Minister of Grenada in Venezuela, and he have the Venezuelan sash or domino or insignia. I don't know what is the name for it. I don't know the Spanish name. But if you openly flaunt a political party, then you wear the domino, the insignia, the sash, the jersey, the pen, or the band on your hand. Anytime you see somebody with yellow or green, with a name or could identify you as a member of a party, it means you openly flaunt the party. So when the Grenada Prime Minister is calling and mentioning that he wants to be an interlocutor, The Prime Minister is a fake. The Prime Minister knows that he cannot be an interlocutor because he openly flaunts Venezuela. When he went down in Venezuela, he put his sash on him. That is giving the impression that he's a comrade, a soldier, a defender of Venezuela. How are you going to be a negotiator? You wouldn't be neutral. They would perceive you as biased and a trickster. I observe CARICOM leaders have never called for the freedom of people who are in jail in Russia, in Cuba, not even China, they talk about it at all. They speak about these countries in glowing terms, but they have never expressed solidarity with the thousands of Cubans in jail. Some of our leaders prepare to lose their passport because they're standing up for Cuba till they're dead. But they have not called on Cuba. The people you have in jail after 60 odd years of experiment with your socialism, why not give them a fair trial? Why not give them an opportunity to defend themselves? Why CARICOM leaders don't call on Cuba to free political prisoners? When the United States accused Cuba of slavery, of using workers to make money outside, they said that the country was paying the medical personnel 35% and 65% was paid to the government of Cuba. United States took strong objection to that and decided to put pressure on the countries that was dealing with Cuba like that. If you hear them defend Barbados, Jamaica, the Bahamas, renegotiate their relationship with Cuba vis-a-vis the medical personnel. Grenada beat the chest and say they will stand with Cuba. They have a moral and legal responsibility to stand with Cuba. And lie the line, you know. Lie the line and trying to deceive Grenadians and deceive Cuba. Because while they're doing that, they go in Nigeria looking for doctors. You think Grenada leaders are bad? These are our leaders, but we must face reality. Some people could only condemn other people's children, but they can't condemn their children. We must be able to condemn our own. While the Prime Minister of Grenada, Dennis Cornwall, and Lennox Andrew and others was beating the chest for the Americans, the government of Grenada was trying to employ Nigerian doctors. They dumbed the Cubans. The master deceiver already prepared to dumb the Cubans. And he go in and embrace Maduro. It doesn't seem to be consistent. I've always felt that the Prime Minister of Grenada, it appears to me, seems to be under some mind-altering substance. He's not consistent in his action. You beat in your chest for the Americans that you will stand up with Cuba, while you're saying that you're looking for Nigerian doctors to replace the Cubans. You're going to want to fight for Maduro, and then you pay the American company $7 million. That doesn't make sense. We in Grenada have to prepare to discuss the issues. And even if you support a party, you don't have to support What don't make sense? What kind of foreign policy is that? That foreign policy is laughable and it's going to get you in trouble because the government of Grenada has deceived the Cubans. They lied to the Cubans. They are trying to employ Nigeria. And they're hoping by paying a company in America millions of dollars, they'll be in good favor with the Americans. And although they pay $7 million, but they didn't have enough money to employ workers to keep the record for the fishing issue. Does that make sense? It don't make no sense. Your leader have to reflect your economic reality and the will and intention and aspiration of your people. Not his own aspiration. Otherwise, he should stay out of politics. When you go in politics, it's not to get rich. If you go in politics to get rich, then you're a thief. You're going to use the opportunity that you have to amass wealth. I asked the question, what next for CARICOM? What next? That war in Ukraine could escalate. I noticed the African leaders calling it tribal war because not them. But when Europe was at war, a lot of our issues here could be affected seriously. Tourism is going to go out of the door. Passport selling. You will make money from that. And if tourism go out of the transportation for fish out of the door too. And while you don't have nuclear weapon, these warmongers would be in your waters fighting with nuclear weapon. You can't help. And when the war is finished, Europe have to be rebuilt. So they're going to take your best minds, your best brains, and your young people to go and rebuild Europe. They have done it every time. They have done it every time. We're not able to develop our people, so our people are going to recognize that they don't have to go and develop another person's country. They could develop theirs. When a government comes in power and they decide to prosecute all those who don't vote for them, the children of those who don't vote for you make for greener pastures for political reasons. And by the time the government change, your children run into. So the country is perpetually kept in poverty. Now, some people in the country have to speak to our leaders. You did not go to the people and beg them to lead them to seek your interests. That means you lied to the people. You won under false pretense. What would be the cause for the CARICOM? The hostility between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela could increase to the point where fishermen will be affected. Only fishermen affected. Trinidad will find no gun behind Venezuela. Venezuela will find no gun behind Trinidad. What they're going to do is to kill poor people, children, the fishermen. And Grenada fishermen just end up in Venezuela too, when they go astray. Not the Venezuelan government are going to do that, you know. The Venezuelan fishermen that is going to take advantage on the Trinidad and Grenada fishermen. We hardly hear Barbados fishermen ending up in Venezuela. I don't know if it's the current, but Grenada fishermen does end up in Venezuela. And Trinidad and Venezuela is 7 miles apart. 7 miles apart. And if the CARICOM starts to be divided and there is no peacemakers in CARICOM, we have to ask the question, what next for CARICOM? Are we seeing the fracturing of CARICOM? Ralph Gonzalez was there speaking about the economic biasness of Trinidad and Tobago with Venezuela. We know in Federation, Jamaica pull out of Federation. Other islands beg Eric Williams to lead. Eric Williams say 1 from 10 is not. 1 from 10 is not. Guyana presently experiencing an oil boom. So you go have money galore in Guyana. And a lot of CARICOM countries is going to go to Guyana. Some will go for sex tourism. Because when there is money, you find sex tourism increase. And Guyana have money. And Guyana don't have population. So Guyana needs people. It means that the smaller countries in the CARICOM going to suffer. Brain drain is one of them. And where are you going to get workers? Even if the price is good, there will be massive shortage in the labor market for agriculture and other workers. So your country could become a buyer's paradise for rich people to buy, while your people have to run to greener pastures. We have to start to discuss issues, and we have to ask questions. Our CARICOM leaders have not provided information for us. We should have a radio station in Grenada, 1 or 2 of them in the Caribbean, providing information from CARICOM. CARICOM should invest in radio, maybe by time or what, when you can discuss CARICOM programs. That is one of the challenges with Brexit. The people who are benefiting more from Brexit didn't go and vote. The conservatives vote out that. They say, no, man, I fed up with that. Not knowing the children like Brexit and benefit from it. We in CARICOM, as weak as CARICOM is, we must strengthen CARICOM. I believe we must strengthen CARICOM. But we must provide information for our people so they should understand. And all people should lobby their leaders not to get involved in imperial business. Don't drink bush for people fever. Seek the interests of CARICOM, irrespective of your ideology and your religious belief. What ought to be important is the economic realities of our country and the dreams and aspirations of our people. And that is where we have to be very careful when we vote politicians in power. It mustn't be because they need a job. Because if they never work yet and they're not involved in any canvassing or organization promoting your country, you don't know nothing about it. It doesn't matter how much PhD they have and master's degree. They might even thief you. We in CARICOM must lobby our leaders. If we don't, who we expect to do it. All leaders have to know that they have to seek the interests of their constituents. They have to seek the interests of their people, not their interests. That is why campaigning is important. That gives you an opportunity to know your political leaders. We too are at fault because we support a party, lob, stock, and buy. But sometimes within the barrel, you have potassium cyanide. Aki when it open. Where Aki nice, don't eat it when it open, you know. Otherwise you go dead. So we have to do more. We don't have think tanks in this country, in CARICOM, and you don't have much programs discussing the pros and cons of politics. I believe working together is a good thing. We're looking for one single market and economy, and we are a small country. And then you realize numbers is important. Based upon the numbers you have, it's difficult to be competitive on the market. But if you come together, if you work together, if you try to settle some of the issues that you have together, if your foreign policy is in the interest of your country in the Caribbean, then you're better able to survive. You will command greater respect on the international market. We have to encourage our leaders. Forget about this communism and left-wingism and all kind of thing. And put attention in Grenada on Project Grenada. Grenada is what's important. Even the Chinese said, it's not a white cat or a black cat. It's a cat that's holding rat. So our policies should be based upon our interests and based upon the commonalities, what we have in common with other members of CARICOM. That should be CARICOM policies. We have to seek our interests. Most of our intellectuals have lost their ability to be palatable. They no longer relate. They consider people as the ordinary man, unschooled, and they no longer relate to us. But we must ask the question, particularly in light of the fact that we may head in for a serious war. Perhaps people should be even discussing what would be the repercussions and how do we prepare. Because sometimes they say necessity is the mother of modern invention. So when things is hard and difficult, sometimes the best of us is being realized. But we have to challenge our leaders because I have not found many who are very satisfied with the direction CARICOM is going. One of our regular callers believe it should be shut down, you know, and he had advanced credible justification and reasons for it. But the idea for CARICOM was before the European Union. CARICOM unity, the idea was there before the European Union. We have not been able to move it fast enough. And one of the reasons we're not moving it is because we're taking too much aside in the imperial powers business. Let's not get between the United States and China and Russia. Let it be what benefits us, mindful and cognizant of the fact that our economic realities and the dreams and aspirations of our people should be what dictates the direction that we take. As we hold this discussion, we provoke discussion. We always invite people to contribute to it, whether through the through the telephone, or what you post or what you write on the chat. But we encourage you to contribute to it. We are not too young to discuss this issue. You're not too old to discuss this issue. These issues must be discussed among our people. We have to stand the consequences of our action. We don't have transportation in the Caribbean. It's a number of islands. And because every time the plane go up, you have to come down quick. They say burning plenty gas, island hopping. And we cannot come yet to subsidize travel by marine purpose. We had Liat, we refused to mine Liat. Every day we complaining Liat not making money. And we come back still fighting for our agency. And then a foreign airline is what having to man the Caribbean. We can't come together to say we're going to run a ship, a passenger and cargo ship among CARICOM islands. It seems that it is uneconomical because our population is small. Guyana should be about 30, 40 million people. Guyana have less than 1 million people. 83,000 square miles, less than 1 million people. Yet, Guyana don't want immigration. They don't want immigrants. People fighting to go to the United States of America. 800,000 Venezuelans want to go to the United States. Grenada sent back Vinci. Grenada sent back over 200 people within the last 3-4 years. What for? Barbados' population has not risen significantly in the last 70, 80 years. Belize and Bahamas have done much better. Their population was smaller than Barbados. Now they maybe have about 400,000 people. Dominica don't have people. Yet, we are not welcoming to immigrants. Grenada should be more welcoming to immigrants. Trinidad took over 47,000 Spanish. Pamela say yeah, about 200 illegal ones. And maybe them is criminals. You understand them? I mean, if you are jailing Trinidad, jail them in Trinidad. They like Trinidad jail. The CARICOM leaders never liked the Jews. During World War II, when the Jews was flying all about, they want a place of rescue because they were being slaughtered in Europe. The CARICOM countries refused to accept the Jews. You see just how they refuse to accept Haitian now? They refuse to accept the Jews. Venezuela accepted boatload of Jews. The CARICOM countries refused to accept them. At that time, it wasn't CARICOM, Caribbean countries. Look at the Haitians. The Haitians running from the country because of political strife and economic crisis. But CARICOM countries don't want Haitian. Why? Barbados have a problem with nurses because Barbados nurse going in England. England nurse going in America. Barbados nurse going in England. England is the place where you have the hardest workload and the highest burnout rate in nursing. So they're always looking for foreigners. So Grenadian, well-trained, young, dynamic nurse going in England and work. And other Caribbean countries, including Barbados. Barbados looking for nurses from Ghana. Well, why not take nurses from Asia, from Haiti? Why Barbados don't advertise from a batch of nurse from Haiti and train them and give them stay? Say after 5 years, you will get permanent stay in Barbados. Why Barbados don't do that? Why Grenada don't take Haitian doctors? Why Grenada don't take Haitian North? Every day we boasting about Haiti is the first country that showed the yoke of slavery, lie and hypocrisy. We're just saying that, but we don't want the Haitians. What happened to our political leaders? What happened to the journalists in the Caribbean? They don't want them Haitian too, you know. The trade union, they don't want them Haitian. Why black people hate black people? And we constantly crying in lamentation about slavery and what they do us in slavery. Why we don't take Haitians? All the nursing spaces in the Caribbean could be filled with Haitians. Can the Haitians don't go? When the nurses come, they spend 5 years, they bring their family come. And our population, they will be able to fill in the vacuum for the need for labor. And it will be done in a very manageable way. Because they came through the nursing rank, and you might take teachers, and now you might take some laborers, you're able to manage it. But by the time they bring their family after 5 years, if they have stay, you have a cross-section of people. What next for us in the Caribbean? What next for us in CARICOM? Why our leaders in CARICOM don't be truthful and fair? Why CARICOM leaders don't seek the interests of our people in the CARICOM? And our interest is based upon our economic realities and the dreams and aspirations of our people. And it is clear. It is not your dreams and aspirations. It's our people's dreams and aspirations. You don't go in politics to turn billionaire and turn millionaire. You go in politics to better improve your country and to better your people. Because even though you turn billionaire, after you come out of politics, you might lose all the money. Even though you turn millionaire, when you come out of politics, you might lose all the money because you get the money through thief, not investment. And our people have to prepare to hold our leaders to task, prevent them from making these mistakes. One of the ways you could prevent them from making these mistakes is to let them provide information for you, for us, in a readily and timely manner and discuss the issues. So they will be ever cognizant that we have a people that is monitoring them and guiding them and helping them to walk the street and now. It's important for us to recognize that we have to seek our interest. We in the Caribbean islands, all of us are independent country. And we have been independent for decades. We have our own academic institution, the University of the West Indies, who internationally is well recognized. We have democracy in almost in all the islands in the Caribbean. We have a democracy that is working. Every now and then you go have some little challenge, nothing perfect, but it's working. We have freedom of the press in all the islands of the Caribbean. Our leaders have to be consistent. We have to be consistent. We have to express solidarity with the people who are in prison for political purpose. And the actions that we take must be reflective of the economic realities in the Caribbean and the dreams and aspirations for our people. I ask, what next for CARICOM? I'm a firm believer in CARICOM and want to see CARICOM strengthen. And as we come to the end of this program today, we want to remind you, subscribe to our program and help us to grow. because we provoke discussion. Thank you very much.
Opportunity for you. Make your contribution, let them know. Democracy in Spice Isles is alive and well. Ask you questions, sing and beat you drum. Make you suggestions, encourage them on to walk the straight and narrow in the land. Politics, religion and economic issue, regional, international, spiritual